Good morning and welcome to this Joint Audit and Standards Committee. I'm Councillor John Matheson and I'm chairing the meeting today. May I first of all remind you of some domestic arrangements. Please ensure that microphones are turned off when not in use, and please do not interrupt other speakers. If you're attending the meeting to speak and persistently interrupt the meeting, you may be asked to leave. Please ensure your mobile phones are on silent or switched off. And additionally, we will be using e-voting for this meeting on the modern.gov app. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The whole of the meeting will be filmed except where there are confidential or exempt items, and we don't have any on the agenda today. If you make a representation to the meeting, you will be deemed by the Council to have consented to being filmed. By entering this meeting as a speaker, you are also consenting to be recorded by the Council and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and or training purposes. The Council, members of the public and the press may record, film, photograph or broadcast this meeting when the public and the press are not lawfully excluded. If you're intended to do so, please could you inform the committee clerk. We've got lots of officers in attendance today. Melissa Evans, Director of Finance and Procurement. Dave Fivial Ward, Head of Finance. Bethany Webb, Governance Support Officer. Peter Randall, Head of Democratic Services. John Snell, Head of Internal Audit, and Lily Seemerling, Senior Internal Auditor. And additionally in attendance we have Councillor Janet Pearson, who is the Mid-Suffolk Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources. And I'd like to particularly welcome Julie Price, who on item 7 we will be, I'm sure, agreeing to becoming our co-option to our committee, as previously mentioned a couple of meetings ago. We're now there. Can I move to the agenda, please? Apologies for absent substitutions.
Thank you, Chair. We have received apologies from Councillor Tim Register.
Thank you. Declarations of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interest by members. None of those. Right, I'd like to get on to the minutes of the previous meeting from the 30th of June. And do anybody have any points of accuracy for the minutes? They've been very satisfactorily. No. So can I have a proposal for the minutes, please? Thank you very much. So I think we can probably manage with a vote by hand, can we, on that, or do we want it on the electronics?
We can do it by show of hands if that's easy.
Well, it gets us there quicker, doesn't it? Right, anybody like to vote in favour of the accuracy of the minutes then? All right, so that's everybody. Thank you. Oh, sorry, we forgot to get a seconder, but no, we did have a seconder, didn't we? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Simon seconded it. Thank you.
Who's one of the above?
Yeah, good. Right, minutes of the 30th of June have been confirmed. Do we have any petitions in accordance with the council petition scheme?
None received, Chair.
Do we have any questions from the public?
None received, Chair.
From the councillors?
None received, Chair.
Right. I'd like to move on now to item 7 on the agenda and invite the Head of Democratic Services to introduce the report.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. This is a fairly straightforward report, and everything I think you need is in the papers, hopefully. But following approval by full council and following a very robust interview process by myself and the two co-chairs, I'm delighted to recommend to committee the appointment of Julie Price as our independent co-opted member.
Thank you very much. So I think we need to have a vote on that. So we'll get this one on the record properly. So if members would like to have a look and see if the vote's coming up. Oh, Chair, yes. Oh, so we ought to propose it, did we?
I asked a question first. I asked a question.
I don't see why not. Go.
Key information 4.1 says that to co-opt the member based on their knowledge and experience, but nowhere have we seen any details. The committee have had no details of this experience or experience. Could we perhaps have a little background?
Well, we did, when the three of us interviewed Julie, we did get quite an exhaustive written and verbal, as you want, experience, etc. I don't know, has Peter got a view about publishing something additionally, or?
Well, so we obviously wouldn't be able to publish the full credentials that we received, because that would be in the form of a CV and a covering letter, which would be obviously inappropriate. But I'm sure that Julie wouldn't mind introducing yourself to the committee at some point.
Hello, so I'm Julie Price. Just give a very brief history of where I've worked, what I've done. So I worked for 20 years in this city in the reinsurance non-marine markets, very much involved in finance and compliance, audit and controls. And then after 20 years in the city, I moved and worked for the NHS for 20 years in primary care and secondary care. Also in mental health services, so dealt with a lot of contracts with the local council as well as the commissioning bodies. So again, it was to do with performance, contracting, compliance, that nature of work.
Would somebody like to propose? Miles would propose. And Ring would like to second. Right, so we will use the electronic voting this time. So if that can come forward.
Thank you, Chair. That vote is now in progress. Councillor Horan, do you want me to take a vote verbally? Thank you, Chair. That's 8 votes for. That's unanimous.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the committee. Yeah, we haven't actually been through that particular process ever before, so sorry if it was a little bumpy at the outset, and I think it was quite fair enough to ask the question and get the answer. Just to remind you, our independent member has speaking rights to ask questions, definitely. But constitutionally not a vote. Okay, just to remind you of that, everybody. Okay, thank you very much. Right. Oh, sorry, Councillor Baker.
Thank you. Just a question. Does Julie have the opportunity to put forward recommendations or suggestions? Is it questions only? Is there other parameters around that? Just want to ask.
Well, I think, a full member apart from voting, as far as I think we've set out. As I say, we are on new ground here, but on the other hand, we are following LGA and I think the Chartered Institute best practice. So we'll perhaps get ourselves a little more briefing on the. Yes, that would be.
So as far as I think that the chair's explained it really well, as an independent member, Julie has the ability to engage with the debate in the much same way as anybody else. I mean, the whole purpose of the role is to advise and to bring that experience that Julie has to bear to the committee in a way that will be helpful in carrying out the audit role. So if you know, there's particular areas that that as an independent member they feel that need to be addressed, they can recommend the committee look at those in greater detail, while also providing that challenge herself. So while they can't formally propose recommendations, it could be that it's suggested that I recommend that the committee looks at X and Y, puts forward these recommendations.
I'm sure that's something. Thank you very much. Right. We now move on to one of the two main items of the agenda, which is the annual Treasury Management Report. Oh, sorry, oh yes, so yeah, I'm reminded we've squeezed an extra item into the agenda as item 7A. Thank you. And yeah, I've got the, I did write it down somewhere, that's it, yeah. So this is to follow up on the committee's requests for to hear what the outcome is of audits that were less than satisfactory. I forget the technical terms, but we'll be hearing them in a moment. So can I ask John Snell to introduce the update?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. You may recall, probably just over a month ago, that we undertook a piece of work around bank reconciliations, and it came out as limited assurance. So there's some key controls that were missing, or certainly required further enhancing. And I had already agreed with this particular committee that any such audits that received a limited assurance or poor assurance would be sent direct to you for comment. This was one such case, and as a result, we carried out a follow-up. Lily, who undertook the work, will give you a little bit more context to the findings. So that meeting then took place with both chairs at the end of July, at your request, chairs. In attendance was also David and Melissa, so they'll be able to sort of clarify some of those points. So we have done some follow-up work. There's still sort of further work to be done, which Lily will explain, but that will be undertaken later in the year. But obviously, just to provide a level of assurance to members today, Lily's just going to provide some backdrop in terms of what we found and how we move forward, and hopefully that will be supported by David and Melissa. So if I just hand you over to Lily, who's the senior auditor who undertook the work.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairs. So I followed up with David being my main auditee. So at the request of this committee, we did an earlier follow-up than we would normally do. So some of the agreed implementation dates were follow-up ahead of time. So I will take you through that. So 92% of the cash and bank reconciliations at the time hadn't been countersigned, which is the process that finance goes through. We do the reconciliations, or they do them, and they are then verified. That was an implementation date of October. Further to this follow-up, it was agreed that they would be signed off after the year-end and data migration has been done, and I'll take you through more on that. The other finding on this follow-up, which is follow-up 1, was that the balance transfers of 24-25 to 25-26 is still outstanding, and that is mainly due to data migration being delayed, but that is being managed at the moment, and I've had assurance that it will be completed the end of September. The other finding that was presented to committee last time was that the Section 151 reports didn't include specifically general ledger reconciliations. However, senior leadership team and this committee do get regular updates, and they're not reported in isolation, but they're part of that report. And on that basis, we were saying that management and committee and also the Section 151 officer does get their assurance and ability to question anything from that update. So that action was closed. So what that actually means is when the data migration has been done, end of September, the year-end process can then be completed, and we'll do another follow-up to be able to provide that assurance.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
Thank you. Yes, this was one of our worries the last day.
Yeah, to the microphone.
Sorry, I'll put this down. This was one of our worries from the previous sort of meetings. All bank reconciliation systems have different methods of reconciling, if you like, and different functionality. This is a tricky question to be asking now, but are there any, and what is the value of unreconciled, say them sort of unreconciled or reconciling items, if you like, that are unknown? So are there any values that are gathered up, in a bulk value, where they can't say what they are, they haven't matched them off entirely? Because I've seen that many times before on systems where we say, yeah, the bank reconciles, but we know we've got £10,000 here that we don't know what it is. That's what I'm asking.
Thank you for your question. So the data migration is proving tricky. So as Lily said, we will have an answer by the end of September. So that's from when we went from Integra, which was the old finance system, over to Unit 4. So we'll be able to give you a much clearer answer by the end of September once we've gone through that exercise, but we need the time to go through that exercise to kind of really get to the bottom of that. Because we don't want where we've got large items and all bulked together. So we don't want that. So that's the work that we'll be undertaking. So we'll be fully resourced from the 1st of September in my team. I've got Tim Byford joining us as senior financial accountant, and this is going to be one of his first tasks is to go through and unpick this.
Thank you. Anybody else questions on this one? No, we want. Yes, Councillor Whitehead.
There was a reference in the report to suspense account and lack of reconciliation there. I just wonder what sort of figures we were talking about.
So the suspense accounts are looking much better now. So we have had much more focus on ensuring that the suspense accounts are in a much better place. The large amount that was on Mid Suffolk was due to a SIL payment that was incorrectly coded, so that's been cleared out now. So we're in a much better place now with the suspense accounts.
Thank you. Any more? Are we all good on that? Yeah, I think that this has been, to me, a vindication of the committee's wish that we do ensure that there is timely follow-up where internal audit work comes up with a less than satisfactory or limited assurance. We'll keep that request current, so to speak. Is that?
Sorry, Chair, I was just going to sort of provide another level of assurance, if you like. Firstly, just to not wish to embarrass the finance team, but David and Melissa have reacted really positively in terms of the recommendations that have been set with clear implementation dates, and also we'll be doing some follow-up work which will be reported back to this committee either at mid-term or the end of year, but we're doing some further work to make sure the ROSE recommendations not only are implemented but continue to be implemented as well. But just to give that level of assurance to this committee as well. So it's not just we're going to leave it here, we're going to continue to do further work in the year.
Good, thank you. Right, so if we can then move on to item 8, the annual Treasury Management Report, and we ask the Director of Finance and Procurement to introduce, together with her team, All right. She's passed it straight over to her team.
Yeah, so I'm delighted to present our Treasury outturn for 2024-25. So the main purpose of this report is to meet the requirements of the SIPFA Code of Practice and to ensure that we are reviewing our Treasury performance and review compliance with the prudential indicators. We have spotted a few minor changes that are required to the paper before it goes on to Council. So one of the tables with headroom on Mid-Suffolk requires updating, which we have changed but is wrong in the JAS paper. And we have split out the UBS fund on the pooled funds section, so they will be changes that will be made to the Council paper. So just some key highlights from the paper. So the total debt for BABA at 31st of March 2025 was 125.7 million and 106.9 million for Mid-Suffolk. On the pooled funds, we know that the UBS fund was closed, which crystallised a loss to both general funds of 495,000 and 498,000 respectively. And the statutory override, which relates to the existing investments in pooled funds for International Financial Reporting Standard 9, has been extended to April 2029, which means funds which are currently operating at a capital loss, which we do not need to account for unless the fund is sold. In terms of dividends from the pooled funds in total, we've received 4.3 million and 4.1 million of dividend income. So onto the prudential indicators. So our debt has remained below the capital financing requirement with a good amount of headroom available. We've remained within our authorised limits and our operational boundary. We did identify 2 breaches within the financial year, the first being the investment limit being exceeded of 2 million in Lloyds. Now, this was due to circumstances outside of our control, because of the Lloyds online banking system being unavailable for one day, and we could not therefore invest surplus funds. For 25-26 and beyond, we've actually removed this limit, and so therefore this will not be an issue in future years. Our second was on interest rate exposure, which was where the threshold was set too low for our level of debt. So in future years, we'll revisit this calculation to ensure that a more prudent assumption is made. So it's just a recap of the paper. Thank you.
Right, thank you. So if members can now ask questions on the report. Who wants to start? Nobody wants to start. No? Nobody wants to start. Well, I've got a problem too. Paragraph 5 links to our plan. I think there are 2 plans, one for Mid-Suffolk and one for BABA, so you might like to just amend that small point to get us going, and see what else we've got here. Oh yes, and the rather obviously the on the page 18, risk management. Obviously the Gateway 14 income, etc., is only a risk on Mid-Suffolk's accounts, not both, which I think that's implied there.
I was just thinking about that. Those risks seem a bit worrying on page 18, particularly the one about BABA may expose itself to financial risk through its subsidiary companies and other commercial activities. And that was a risk of 4 and the likelihood was 3. So I think that does, I appreciate that a lot of work has been being done to mitigate that, but that it's got to that stage in the first place, I think is rather worrying. Has anybody got any comments?
Yeah, I think this has been discussed not only at this committee but also at Cabinet and Council as well, the issue with BABA growth. I don't want to mention any values because obviously until those properties are sold, we don't know what the loss could potentially be on that site. So, you know, they're being marketed, they're being sold, so it's a wait and see game, but that's why we flagged it as a risk. We have set aside as part of the 25-26 budget setting an earmarked reserve in Baybar. So we've got £1 million reserve to fund some of that should that come to fruition.
Thank you.
Right, yeah, so Councillor Whitehead, then Councillor Hurren, then Councillor Dowling.
Thank you. For a number of years, we've had capital losses on our investments, and we've had the threat of them having to be disclosed in our accounts. But I read here, I think you mentioned that any losses won't have to be taken into account until the 1st of April 2029, which is beyond the lifetime of Mid-Suffolk District Council. So are we 100% certain that we'll never have to worry about this as a Mid-Suffolk District Council?
Yep, so this has come from the government, so, unless they change their minds at the moment, then that is in place until the 1st of April 2029.
Just to clarify, that would mean in the accounts 29-30 rather than 28-29?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right, yes, Councillor Hurren, Councillor Dowling after that.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The papers tend to be what is printed, but I just wanted to ask a genuine question, really, maybe of Melissa with the help from David. I'm sort of aware that our partner auditors, EY, they're sort of meant to shadow us as we go along as part of the deal of what they do, but I sense there's a bit of slippage there. In the risk management, there's loads of things, discussions with external auditors, EY in brackets. Is this actually happening, Melissa, is my question, because we pay them fees, pardon me, for quite a broad service, and in the back of my mind, I think, are they fulfilling their side of what we pay them to do? I know they're have slipped terribly with the actual producing an external audit. We've had to do it by different methods, but I'm just wondering what the situation is like at the moment. Can we be assured they're stepping up to the plate, basically?
So I've had correspondence with the partner from EY on quite a lot of things, and David's had a long list of requests from, I think it was 600 came through on the portal that we have. So, you know, they are busy doing lots of work. Our time frame has slipped from September to November for them to come and start the work, and then there's the backstop date of February 2026 when they must have the audits complete and the final accounts issued. So I think it's a little bit too early to say, but there is obviously a lot of work happening in the background, and certainly the portal is showing that activity, but it's now sitting with us to respond to those 600 odd queries, which will be a challenge.
So you're comfortable with what's going on, basically. And you mentioned in the briefing a slippage to November and 600 questions to us, but they are meant to be providing a service and keeping a bit of an eye on us, I would think, on the whole year. And I'm just wondering, is that actually happening, or do you not expect that anyway?
No, I wouldn't expect them to keep an eye. I mean, they do keep abreast of things that are happening, so you know they will be aware of any issues that are coming up, as I would expect. But you know, they will review our Treasury reports and things just to make sure. But I think that's more done when they come to do the final audit. But they'll gather all of the evidence for the value for money conclusion, things that we're doing around the budget and budget savings. So you know, they will look at all of that stuff throughout the year to have that audit pack and that evidence to have a look at when they come to do the audit.
Okay, and we're confident they will produce the external audit in time.
At the moment, those are the assurances that I'm getting, yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll hold their feet to the fire, I think. Okay, thank you. Just a broad question about things that concern me, and maybe ought to concern the members as well. But we will see. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Councillor Dowling.
don't think I'm on. Right, I'm on. Hello. Could I just return to one of my favourite hobby horses, which is Baber Growth and the Corpse Lane development? I didn't hear, I'm afraid, what figure you gave for the reserve you set aside in next year's budget?
£1 million.
Okay, thank you. That isn't going to be enough, is it?
Absolutely not, and we are struggling. You know, we have got a gap next year. We've got a £2.8 million budget gap that was in the MTFP that was published in February. So that was the most that I could really take to set aside. We are undertaking a massive savings programme with the senior leadership team and heads of service as well as we speak to try and close that gap. So we're doing everything we can to one, set a balanced budget and to mitigate against any financial risk. But it's challenging, I would say, very challenging.
So in that connection, I remember it being discussed that it might be possible to spread the debt to Baber District Council over the lifetime of the assets. 30 years was mentioned. Is that possible, and are we going to do that?
So that's one of the things that's sitting with EY, our auditors at the moment. We've given them a paper on our proposals and they'll be reviewing that as part of the work they undertake in November and telling us whether that's permissible or not. Arlene Close's advice was they thought it probably was, but obviously we need the auditors to be comfortable with that treatment before we go ahead with it.
Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Chair. Again, Baber Growth and Corpse Lane. Is there, it's carrying on, but is there a point, Melissa, at which you as the Section 151 officer intervenes on behalf of the good of the whole council?
I think that's already happened, so I'm in close dialogue with Emily Atack, who's leading on the project on behalf of Baber Growth, so I regularly have conversations with her about how it's going, and I think, the best thing to do is to sell those, to continue on that journey that we were on and to sell the units and, minimise any potential loss that may be there. So that's my recommended course of action, so I'm in agreement with Emily on that approach.
I just have another question. Thank you, Chair. And then coming up to LGR, where there might be a division, we don't know who's going where. What are the implications of that with that debt?
I think at the moment it's too early to say. Obviously, we don't know whether it'll be one council or three councils. That's for the government to decide. We are obviously working closely across Suffolk Section 151s to look at our balance sheet and start thinking about how we might do some of that. But until we know for sure what the answer, which it's going to be, we don't want to do a lot of work in vain of it, if it's one or three. So, we're having conversations, but we haven't agreed anything yet.
Yeah, perhaps it's the right moment to say that it's not the right time in the process of moving towards local government reorganisation to digging too deeply into these questions. Clearly we will come back to them, but it probably needs to wait a couple of meetings until we've got some more substantial news coming back from government. So if I can, ask for your patience in picking at that one too much.
Hi. So I've been worried about your team for quite a long time. Obviously, I came into sort of post about a year and a half ago now. And I know things have been really difficult in the finance team at that point. There was lots of absences and things. And now we're a year and a half on. We've obviously had multiple years of unaudited, externally audited accounts because of the whole national situation. The bank rec was kind of key. That was why I asked that last time. That concerns me greatly. And I don't, obviously we're crossing over on sort of items, agenda items here, but, that is fundamental, as you know. And what concerns me is obviously balances that haven't been sort of input at this point. We've got potentially unreconciled bulk items. I've been independent examiner. I've worked for various chartered accounts practices, gone into organisations where they can't track their stuff. And some of these are very large organisations, some are very small. and I know the complexity, the hours that takes. And the reports are great. You know, it's great for us to have a statement of accounts now. It's great for us to have Treasury reports, but they're bits of paper, and actually you're doing the best that you can to pull that together. And if we have an uncertain position, it's great for us to look at that now, but actually we're really uncertain. It could be any variety of change at this point. And so I think my question really for you guys is, how many people have you got in your team? You know, is the work equally distributed? Are you going to be able to come out of this, or is there a line that needs to be drawn? Do we need to be having those discussions? Because I know how difficult it is for teams like yourselves, where there's this position and it's like, we've got to get through it, we've got to get this right, we've got to find the problems, and actually don't want to tackle it with trustees or whoever it may be. And sometimes it's best to just grab the bull by the horns and say, do you know what, we don't know, there is a problem here. We could spend our next 3 months trying to find these problems, or we need to state the position sort of right now. And I don't want to be as blunt as this, but I feel I just want to get things out in the open and just want to cut through it really. And I just want to support you guys, make sure that if you haven't got the resources of the staff that you need, do we need to put more money in? Do we need more external agency staff in? We've got some complicated things coming up with LGR, obviously you've just been mentioning this. And I know what this looks like operationally. I've seen it many, many, many times before. And I just really want to know what would you like to happen, really?
Yeah, so we've completed a big recruitment drive within my team. So we've got, once we're fully resourced, we'll have, including myself, a team of 29 across the whole finance team. So we've implemented a financial control team as well. So Tim, who I mentioned earlier, will be our senior financial accountant. He'll head up the financial control team. We'll be bringing the reconciliations team over into the financial control team, because I think that's where it sits best. We're going to utilise some of the skills that Tim has got in terms of really improving our reconciliation processes. We've had a collection fund accountant recently join us, Beth, as well. Again, she's got similar expertise like Tim in Excel and in really improving those reconciliation processes. So there's a lot of hope. We only now have one interim member of staff who will be leaving us on the 30th of September, which is fantastic considering the position we were in. So there's a lot of hope, I think, going forwards. I think we've got what we've needed. We've got the support from Melissa as well. So going forwards, I think we should be in a really good place to meet the challenges that we've got.
Thank you. I just want to, speaking perhaps on behalf of other people, just so that that, what you need, you just need to say and be open really about this, because we know it happens. So that was my worry. I just want to make sure that we don't just sit on it and not want to say anything and get it out and open. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to add that, I've discussed with Melissa, with the Chief Executive, over the last, since I became co-chair, and that we are in the best place that we've been over that time, significantly better than at any previous point in the last 2 years. Yes, thank you. I would just a little bit looking at, again, hopefully the last look at the risk element of the report. There's a note that we are, lost it now, regarding non-compliance with legislation regulatory standards risk. I see mention of appointment of a dedicated policy officer and a dedicated compliance officer in the mitigation, and I wasn't too clear who these people were. Or is that some part of the of somebody else's somebody's responsibilities?
I think it is. Can you just remind me, sorry, which risk you're talking about, please, Councillor? I think we might have to take that one away because it's not roles that sit within my directorate, so I'll just need to check on that one if that's okay.
Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that we're looking here at Treasury management for the year 24-25, but on page 28, paragraph 2.8, it talks about the Gateway 14, the 20 million dividend previously received, and it says the forecast dividend payment for 25-26 is 2 million. I mean, there's 47 million pounds worth of profit and loss earnings in Gateway 14 at the end of March 24. So I just wondered why the dividend is falling away so much for this year.
I think at the moment those are the current projections that we're expecting occupiers to take up on Gateway 14, so I think we're just being quite prudent there. Hopefully it will be more than that, but we're just being quite prudent and quite cautious about the income that we might get.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, I mean, the income I was referring to was income already received, because at the March 24 Gateway 14 accounts have got 47 million of profit and loss already there. So to take 20 out, we've still got 27. I'm quite curious why we're leaving all the money in Gateway 14 rather than bringing it back to the council to use.
I think we might just want to revisit that just so that it captures all of the historic stuff as well, because that's just looking at this financial year, so we could make it clearer as to what the complete picture is to date of Gateway 14, if that would be helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, Councillor Hurren, while I look for my next question.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a general one. Some time back, it's sort of covered at the bottom of the report on 11.1, environmental funding, ESG in other words. I think throughout the last couple of years, we've agreed to sort of keep an eye on what's available and a gradual movement from fossil fuel investments into other things. And we've got the money from the pooled investments, which will have to go somewhere. Has there been any movement on, because it says we engage Arlene Close to advise us on that, how is it looking? Are more friendly investments coming on stream, or is it very much, maybe David could answer this. I just want to know what's available and can we make progress on this, because I think the committee is resolved to try and move our investments eventually out of fossil fuels, however small it may be at the moment. It's the look, isn't it? So any report or update on that for the future would be appreciated.
Yes, we have specifically asked Arlene Close, so we know there are ESG funds that are available to invest in, but the returns just aren't there, unfortunately.
Not good.
No.
Can I just add?
Okay. Yep.
Yes, I think Melissa wants to add.
The other thing I would say for Labour as well, green, right, is that if we have any surplus cash, I would prefer to use it to reduce your debt rather than to
Yes.
reinvest. So that would be my recommendation when we get to that point,
Yes.
is to reduce debt rather than investing in anything else.
Yeah, well, that's another reason I'm asking, you see. It's a balance of what we can get by investing or save ourselves by paying off debt, isn't it? So, but if something is brilliant, and 10% interest, well, we'd all jump at it, wouldn't we? But not leaping off the page, David, obviously. No, well, thank you. It's, I might suggest if we could just be kept briefed occasionally, it's good to know. Thank you.
Perhaps that this is the right moment also to ask the committee previously requested that that we monitor the movement of the money market funds, particularly the Schroeder one, which contains a fossil fuel residual amount. Can we perhaps hear where we are with that one, please?
Yep, so the value of that fund has increased, and I'm looking to Councillor Pearson because I know written down on her piece of paper she's got the value as of the 15th of August, which was 1.881 million. So we invested 2 million, so we're getting closer to not losing any capital, which is where I want to get to. So my recommendation at the moment is to hang on to that investment, and we continue to monitor it daily. Should that start to fall, then I will take action and sell that investment. The other thing I would say at the moment as well is we don't have any debt maturing that we could pay off that cash with. So we would just be putting it in money market funds as well, which is not ideal. So we are keeping a close eye on it, and we will take action as soon as it's the right time to do it.
Thank you for that. I've got a small point on paragraph 3.4, funding circle. This is on page 30. Members want to catch up with it. I noticed that there's £2,000 left funding circle. Is this actually a bad debt that we need to write off?
Yeah, we'll follow that up with our advisors. I think the advice that I last got was we needed to keep that there just in case we had to pay the debts, but we'll get an update on that, see where we're at.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Downing's got a question while I keep looking.
So just to come back to Councillor Hurren's question about ESG compliant investments, I remember saying this in a previous meeting with my other hat on, Suffolk Pension Fund Committee hat. I can tell you that different advisors have found ESG compliant investments which do produce competitive returns. So if we're relying only on Arlene Close's advice, then I might suggest that it's not as efficient as other people's advice.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They do have more ESG available funds. It's because of the type of investment they've got. So I don't know the ins and outs of it, but when I last spoke to their pension expert, it was linked to the infrastructure investments that they have, they're available to invest in that we can't as district councils. So I think the investments they've got are wider than what we have access to as well. But I'll certainly pick it up again with them to see if there's any opportunities there.
Yeah, the pension fund, I mentioned that I'm Councillor Dowling, substitute member on the pension committee. Do they not have different advisors? They're not using Arlene Close. They're using others, aren't they?
They're using Hymans Robertson, who I have to say are excellent.
So that's one to perhaps share the knowledge.
I think they are pensions experts though, so
yeah.
And probably the scale that they've got invested obviously far outweighs ours, so they are pension specific advisors rather than Treasury advisors.
Any more? I've jumped up to the end of the report, may I? Yeah, Councillor Marriott's got one.
Hi, it was about Baber growth again. It was, as you know, you said that currently anticipated there'd be a loss of about 3 million, and I see that you're going to increase the facility loan by about another 3.5 million, and I can understand that obviously you want to complete the project, but is that going to be used wisely? Is there any chance of a further loss?
I think that was agreed at council, so I think there was a lengthy debate and questions, both at myself and Emily Atack around that as well. So we both agreed that that was the right thing to do to get this over the line.
Thank you. Right, are we at the end of questions on the Treasury Management Report? Now, I think we... oh, yes, we do have a debate about this if we want to have. Would anybody like to debate the Treasury Management Report? Oh, the heads are shaking. Very well, we do not have a debate. So would somebody like to propose that we note it, I think, don't we? We note it. I haven't quite got that down somewhere here. This one. Just a moment while we find what it is we need to propose. Well, it must be the beginning of it, mustn't it? So that. Right. The recommendations to us are on page 17, and they are that we note the report of Treasury Management activity for the year 24-25, and that we note that they were in accordance with the prudential indicators, and that we complied with the approved Treasury Management strategy, which we approved a long while ago, with the exceptions that David has mentioned, which are noted in paragraph 4.4. So would somebody like to propose that? Councillor Harron would like to propose it. Would somebody like to second it? Councillor Whitehead would second it. So we will have a vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. That vote is now in progress. Councillor Harron, do you want to take your vote verbally?
Just to explain, everybody, I'm on manual voting because my computer was kidnapped by the IT folks this morning, so and it's obviously not coming back for a while.
Thank you, Chair. That's 8 votes for. That's unanimous.
Thank you very much. Right, we now move on to the draft statement of accounts for the year 24-25, and it's good to be seeing this here already in a timely way, which is better than the previous time, I think. So I'd like to invite the Director of Finance and Procurement to introduce the report, or with her team.
So again, delighted to be presenting the statement of accounts for both councils, with the first draft being published on the websites on the 30th of June, in line with statutory requirements, which started the 30-day consultation process, which has now ended. I just wanted to say this was a huge achievement for us to publish on time, an achievement I'm very proud of. A massive thank you to my team for all of their hard work, late nights and extra hours that were put in to get us where we needed to be. These are an unaudited set of financial statements, and so these numbers and words are subject to change. We are aware of a few amendments required for the council names, where Baber is named Mid-Suffolk in the Mid-Suffolk statement of accounts. So these changes have been made on the live document. The audit, as has already been mentioned today, will commence in November for the detailed field work. Audit requests have already been received. We now need to work our way through these audit requests in preparation for the audit with EY. This date will fit in with the statutory deadlines of having the audit completed by the backstop of February 2026. So just a high-level summary there. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, we move on to questions. I think the best way to do this, shall we start with some questions on the Baber accounts? Anybody want to? A head shaking there, another head shaking. No questions on the for the officers?
Yeah, might have liked to have asked about the swimming pool, Chairman. Are the costs on that likely to be ongoing, do you know, and increasing? I could see it's responsible for a big deviation this time around, but I have heard tell that it may want even a more major one in the future, which we'll have to accommodate. Is that likely? Maybe Melissa might know the future of the expenditure. It's obviously vital we keep it going, but it is becoming a little bit of a millstone round our necks, isn't it? What is the future like?
So when EY came to this committee in June, I think they set out their fee proposals, and I think the partner did make a comment that if there was more work needed to be undertaken to gain assurances around the opening balances as a result of having the accounts disclaimed for the last few years, that may incur additional costs. So I think it's too early to say, but yeah, it depends on the level of work undertaken.
Yes, okay, thank you, Melissa. It's obviously applicable to Weber, isn't it? Because it comes out of our piggy bank, but it's a slight worry. But okay, thank you for that.
Yes. No further questions anybody wants to ask about the Weber accounts in particular? Right, we move on to Councillor Miles Rowe, who has a question about Mid-Suffolk accounts, which start on page 160 or something, I think.
Yeah, well, my question kind of applies to both, because with the sensitivity analysis, there's bits about pensions, and one of the assumptions is life expectancy, and it mentions about people's gender. I wonder whether there's any other, whether it's broken down anymore, because there's quite large differences in life expectancy based on, like, socio-economic background or sometimes cultural heritage and stuff, and so there will be potentially some kind of bits where there's greater life expectancy expected than if you just take the very basic life expectancy, which would have kind of quite a sizable impact on kind of what councils might have to end up paying.
I'm not an expert in the pensions, and Hyman's obviously provide the advice for us, and they do for lots of other councils as well. So I would hope that they build that into the assumptions, because otherwise they're making pension funds, not financially viable going forward. So I can't hand on heart say, because I don't know the details behind how they do that analysis, but I'd like to think that they do prudent assumptions around that. But.
Okay, so in fact, is it possible that kind of going forward, it's asked and then can be included in the narrative rather than just the cover where it talks about gender in it?
I can certainly ask the question, yeah, going forward.
Thank you. I just in terms of the best sort of public transparency and so forth, just looking at page 171 on the Mid-Suffolk account, it probably applies on both. This is the comprehensive income and expenditure statement. I was just looking at the various departmental headings, and I wondered if we could put something down more explanatory as to what the corporate resources line actually comprises, and similarly with the environment and commercial partnerships, which I suspect might be partly the waste service and the leisure service. But could you just help us and perhaps put more? I think that the same headings would probably appear in one or two other tables. I think if we could be more clear for the public.
Yeah,
perception.
so this table is a summary table that is very similar to our outturn report that we take. So I think if you looked at the outturn report that we did for 24-25, it will have all of those services that are listed in each of those areas. Obviously, we try to make it as compact and condensed as we can for this document, but it does link to the outturn report. So I think my advice would be to have a look at the two side by side. The numbers in the comprehensive income and expenditure account are different to what you see in the outturn because of the accounting adjustments, and one of the notes does do a reconciliation between the two, but you're probably getting into quite some techie bits to try and follow it. But if you wanted to see what was in each of those areas, the outturn report has all of those details in it.
Yeah, well, more things come to light between the outturn report and when we get to this stage, don't they? Yeah, I just feel as if that would... there's a nice big space on the table, actually, for a few extra words. Just my little request there. Yeah, I've got a couple more notes on that table. Oh yes, I I think I was noticing that there's huge differences with the previous year comparatives on these some of these figures, with the notes 19G and 19C. Yeah, this is where I couldn't see in the notes what I couldn't see the 184,000 in the notes, and similarly with the 1899, the 1.89 million effectively as it is in the notes, and as a general principle, it is helpful if you go from the table to the notes, that the notes clearly explains the figure in the table.
As part of my review, I did do that cross-check between the balance sheet and the notes, and I think there was a few things that I highlighted on there that I know David and the team are looking at, because like you expected to see the same note, but I think some things may have been restated for the previous year as well, which is kind of distorting it as well. So yeah, that was one of the things I picked up on, with some of the notes I could see some of the numbers on there, but not all of them. So I think there'll be further work to do the final.
Yes, thank you. Well, we note that these are draft statement of accounts. So there's a little way to go there. So yes, those highlighting those two lines. So I started to talk about the comparatives with the previous year. That was a different point that I'm going to try and find in a moment. The same sort of issue arises on the next page. Property, plant and equipment in the balance sheet. Note 12 doesn't immediately tie up either. That was that one. Anybody else got any more questions while I look for my the rest of my notes on here? We've got rush of hands. Councillor Howard, Councillor Whitehead. Sorry, not Howard, sorry,
right.
brain failure. Councillor Marriott.
I don't think we look at
Sorry about that. Don't worry.
Anyway, no, it was just a quick one on page 242 about the mention of shared ownership. Are those shared ownerships of houses? I wasn't aware that we actually, or is it some sort of flat?
Yep, so the shared ownership properties, it's a nationwide scheme that lots of councils and registered providers, housing associations offer. So you can buy an initial tranche in a house or a flat, and then the remaining percentage, so if you buy 25%, the remaining 75% is retained by the council, and then the tenant pays rent for that element. So they own part of it, and then we own part of it, and then they just pay the rent on the bit that they don't own. They can increase their ownership up to 100%, depending on the scheme as well. So it's generally on new build developments that you would get that.
No, it's just there was a resident in Great Blakenham who was looking for a new flat, and I was sort of looking at sort of schemes like that, but I wasn't aware that we did them. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Page 160, which is the overview of the financial year. It says the general fund, the actual position is the surplus of 6.4 million. The Cabinet Papers outturn report had a surplus of 5.69 million when it was reported to Cabinet. I just wonder what the differences were and whether if it's changed since the Cabinet report was issued, whether the Cabinet would be updated with the newer figures.
So there was a change as part of the work that was undertaken when we were preparing the accounts. So we have got some changes that need to go through. We haven't mentioned that as such in Q1, but you will see that coming through in the reserves. The surplus has changed as to what we were forecasting. So they're accounting adjustments that had happened when we were preparing the accounts that have moved that.
It concerns me a little bit that if I wanted to say next year to look back at what last year's figures were, I think the instinct would be to go back to the Cabinet report, which would be out of date. Yeah.
I'm certainly happy to provide a reconciliation if that would be helpful with what's changed to this committee.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got another one. I'm on page 182 now, looking at income from services, and it seems to be a bafflingly large change on the planning and building control, where the income apparently is 10 million, and it was previously 15,000 the previous year, and that there's a somewhat similar puzzle on the next line, where communities and well-being has gone from a 10 million income apparently to 800,000. Something going on there that doesn't look quite right.
Yeah, it looks like those two have just been put in the wrong lines to me. So my focus when I was reviewing was 24-25, but yeah, you're absolutely right. We can have a look at that. That's yeah, I see. I was thinking maybe we reclassified something or other. Do we actually earn 10 million income on planning? Yes, it probably does feel like that's the level of all of the planning services combined. The other element that probably is just when you said reclassification is possibly the building control element may have been reclassified in 24-25, but we'll dig into that and see if something has just shifted between the lines as a shift in directorate management, because that could be the other element. Thank you. Anybody else while I just scroll through a bit further?
Yes.
Councillor Harron?
Yes, I could keep Melissa occupied for at least 5 minutes. Yes, I haven't got my computer here, Melissa, and I did mark it up. But off the top of my head, I remember reading that the HRA holds about 15 million in reserves to build houses. I think it said, I'm sorry, I can't remember whereabouts it was, and I can't quite catch it in the written report. But I remember they have 1 million working capital and they keep 15 million in reserve for house building or acquisition.
Yeah, so
now I just wondered where that money comes from. Is it profit with our trading, which is our money, or does it come from the housing corporation maybe? So if we blow half of that, does it get reimbursed by government housing corporation, or is it our money, our own money we generate?
Yeah, so I think it's probably page 17, you saw that on the BABA document. So yeah, you're absolutely right, they've got £1 million in the general reserves.
And this is just BABA or BABA Mid-Suffolk?
Just BABA,
yeah.
And
I thought I remembered that.
And 14.6 million HRA earmarked reserves. It's a combination of where we've had surpluses in previous years, where we've disposed of assets and got capital receipts as well. So it's a combination of historic reserves built up, so there's no claim on that money, if you like. It's ours to do what we like, whether we want to invest that in house building, whether we want to invest that in repairs in our housing stock. So it's up to us to decide how we use that money.
So it's total HRA money then,
yes.
Obviously.
Yeah, it's ring-fenced.
Yeah, I'm just thinking with the homelessness crisis,
That's general fund.
Oh right, yeah, oh yeah, that's different to our own trading. Oh God, why is it so complicated? Yes, I just think we're desperate for housing at the moment. Might be a good time to invest in more houses, because I'm aware we're paying out thousands on housing people in not great places, to be honest. So it might alleviate some of the horrible situation we've got at this time. But yeah, I'll talk to Deborah about that. She'll enjoy that one. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just developing that's a very interesting point, reminding us that homelessness is actually a general fund charge. Given that we're not allowed to subsidise the HRA from the general fund, there seems to be a kind of a real policy anomaly there, because as Councillor Hurren is saying, by providing more houses through the HRA, we could lessen the strain on the general fund, and yet we're not allowed to actually do that the other way, effectively the other way around. I mean, is that some general point that we ought to be making to government?
Yeah, and we absolutely have done. You know, we have been pushing government to say, you know, our HRAs are failing. If we've got money in the general fund, you know, is there anything you can do to change the legislation and the rules around that? So we are proactively doing that, and across the country as well, we are proactively doing that as well, but nothing seems to be...
Yeah, that's what I was thinking in terms of local government association. Is this something that they've got on their radar, their agenda? For obviously they're in conversation with government all the time. It does seem to be quite a clear anomaly when you look at that point. Yeah.
So I think, John, my general point was that we could save money by housing people almost, because at the moment it is a drain on our funds, what we're having to do. We had somebody recently in temporary housing, which is meant to be 2 weeks. They were there for 10 months. And that's land, and that's housing that I know we buy in. We rent a complex to put people in an emergency, but we are paying for it, and the logjam is horrendous. This is something maybe all councillors ought to be aware of. The drain is bad. So spotting last night, we have 15 million sort of available. I was just following a trail, really. But thank you for your advice. I'll...
But I'm not familiar with the Baber Housing Revenue Account, but I do know that the Mid Suffolk one is not in a place where it can actually provide more houses at the moment, because it would be we would be bringing nearer to the present a deficit in the HRA, which is somewhere in the middle distance at the moment.
Well, with the dead opposite in favour of Mid-Suffolk, we're skint on the general fund, and, you know, in trading on the HRA, we're quite a good position, whereas Mid-Suffolk is, you're skint on the housing one, but got money to burn on the general fund, basically. Is, you know, we are the total opposite, but I just make the point, it might be good to spend a bit to save a bit, Melissa. That was, and I think we're on the same page, aren't we?
So I think investment in our current stock is what's needed as well. So I think we just need to get that balance right between new stock and our current stock as well, because there's an awful lot of work we need to do to get that up to speed as well. So yeah, it's that balance, and that's what we will be doing through the 30-year business plan that will be coming back to council in February next year. So that work will be undertaken and making best use of those reserves that we've got to fund that.
But Melissa, let me corner you here. Are you saying that the 15 million we have is to be spent on refurbishment? Because I clearly remember last night it did state it was for more housing, I thought.
It's a combination of both, and that's what we'll draw out in the business plan. So the stock condition survey will inform the works that we need to do on our current stock, and that has to be one of our priorities, because if we've got people living in below standard housing, that's not great. So we do need to prioritise that as well. So what I'm saying is it's a balance between the two.
Yes. Yeah, I agree there's a balance, but at the moment we've got people living in cars on the streets, so maybe the balance is tipped a bit the other way, I might say. If somebody's got a roof over their heads at the moment, that's pretty good. You know, the toilet might not flush 100% and want to do little things, but it would be important to give people somewhere to live, basically. Thank you.
Councillor Baker has a question.
Thank you. I was just wondering if we track going concern ratios. So obviously in here, in the draft accounts, it's stating, you know, the assessments have been done and it's a going concern. So we've got the forecasts sort of moving forward, you know, budgets are what they are. Are we doing that to track on a going concern ratio? Because obviously when you look at the key points as to what makes an organisation a going concern, the fluctuations, we're coming to a crescendo with LGR when you're restricted on what you can invest in, what you can sell, what you can buy, and our financial sort of positions as well. So just wondered if any of that, I know it's unknown because of LGR, we don't know where we're going to be, and at the end of the day it's going to be scooped up, whatever, but I wondered.
So as part of my budget report that I do every year, there's a Section 25 report in there where I go through all the SIP for resilience, which is the going concern stuff. It looks at our level of debt, it looks at our reserves, and I comment on each one of those resilience indicators to say, am I comfortable? Is there anything I should be, you know, everyone should be concerned about? So I do a thorough review of that every year when we set the budget.
Well, I've got a little puzzle on page 192. I was looking. This is the what's it? Let's see the heading. This is the revaluations of assets. I couldn't think what other, apart from council housings, I could not think what else in terms of land and buildings we would have that was worth £45 million.
I think it's probably the garages.
Which?
The garages.
45 million?
There's probably other stuff in there as well, so there's probably other land as well, but I'll need to dig into the fixed assets register, but I know a chunk of that will probably be garages.
I can, you know, I can think of the depot, which is other land and buildings, and I think of the leisure centre, but I still struggle to think that they would be worth so much as 45 million.
Parks, toilets.
Yeah, sorry, I
misread
the table. I thought it was the HRA. Yeah, no, it is the general fund as well. So it'll be all of our other assets, so the leisure centres and things in there as well. So there'll be quite a lot, and other land in there as well. So, yeah.
Excellent. Councillor Whitehead.
Page 185, which is the reserves. The total corporate priorities reserves, there's something something that doesn't seem quite right down the bottom right-hand part of that report, because the the brought forward figures don't seem to add up by 2 million, and the carry forward by 2 million. So if you could just look into that. You see, you've got, if you look at the April 2024 figure, you've got 2 million plus 4.7, which is 6.7, plus another 7.3 makes 14 million rather than 16 million.
Yeah, we've already spotted that, so yeah, we'll correct that.
Huh?
We've already spotted that, so we'll correct it.
Okay, so do we know what the actual, where the error is in there?
The strategic priorities, which on the brought forward was 7.3, it should have been 5.3 million. So it's just that total needed to be reduced down. It's just a typo then.
Thank you. Yeah, on page 209, in the notes to the accounts, there's a note about the integration between the two accounts, and obviously I've mentioned before the meeting that there's a bit of typos going on there. But I was also wondering whether you could just outline for the committee's understanding where the costs of the combined workforce and resources and so on that we share, where these are not shared 50-50, just in general terms for our understanding.
That level of detail isn't included within the statement of accounts, so it won't go down to that level in terms of splits across the authorities. So say if you've got one role that's 40% Labour and 60% Mid-Suffolk, that level of detail is not in the statement of accounts. We have included that level of information in the budget paper, and then that runs for the financial year, but you wouldn't see it in this document.
I'll be quiet one day, sorry. Thank you. So, yeah, it's a really complex, detailed report. You've put loads of work into this. I think it's a lot more than previous years I've seen. So, you know, that's really good. It looks like moving in sort of the right direction. I am still very concerned, I have to say, just because I think there's a lot of things, unanswered questions at this point. I think the team is developing and, you know, progress is being made. The QA of the reports, I know these are draft, but the QA methods, I would probably sort of challenge those within the team. And, you know, is it that you're using macros to QA sort of figures that are, you know, moved from one page to the next? You know, is it sort of actual staff that are picking up sections and doing that QA? So that, because the trouble is you've got loads of figures and it's very difficult to track and everything moulds into one eventually. So, but, you know, you've done loads of work and I think it's a great report and I'll obviously support you. But the QA of that, I would say something. Thanks.
Sorry, any other observations? Councillor McLaren.
No, I just want to reiterate what Councillor Baker has just said. Considering all the hurdles and all the challenges, I think we should say thank you for all the hard work that the team has undertaken. For those of us that have been here a bit longer, those challenges have been going on quite some time. And I just want to say thank you. Good job.
Thank you. Yes, I'd certainly like to add my my thanks to the fact that we're back on top of the game. It's the football club, but that's another story. If there are no further things that people would like to say, then I think we are going to look for a proposer and a seconder. No, we don't need to.
It's just for notice, we don't need to.
Oh, we don't need to propose and second our noting of it. We just nod our heads so I think what I would finally like to say, when I was looking through this, I was reflecting on a former councillor, John Field, and he was tremendously good at actually checking the adding up and that kind of thing. But I think we've had a useful question and answer session, which has looked more at the principles, which is probably better. Although I think Councillor Field was an excellent member of this committee in the past. I see Melissa's nodding. That's good. Right. So we note. In its further journey through towards being adopted and audited and all the rest of it. Right. So it says here I'm supposed to have a proposer, but you reckon we not have it? We don't need to. We've got all that down here for some reason. All right. Well, we'll take advice. Right, so we've just finally got the forward plan, which is on page something horrendous. What's the last page actually? Simple, 261.
If you've got a hard copy, I could share, John. I can find it, yeah.
There.
Yep, thank you.
Right, so are there any questions or observations or anything about the forward plan at the moment? Anybody? Are we all good? We're all good there. Right.
Well, there's not much on December at the moment, but I would think that will change, I would imagine.
We haven't got, whether Melissa's got any thoughts about there's anything else that we're going to add into that. Well, we'll.
Yeah, if I could, just one more thing that will come on is the audited statement of accounts, and the audit report as well will hopefully be February, I'm hoping. It has to be February. So
that's, we'll put that one in pencil, shall we?
Please, yeah.
Right, thank you for that. Right, so...
just going to ask Melissa, what about the external auditor progress? Could that be reported at the December meeting? Because no.
So the next update will be their audit findings and their audit report. That's how it would normally go.
Okay.
So we'll, if anything urgently emerges from the internal audit work, and I'm sure we'll hear about that. And I'm trying to do some work with officers to line up some training also, both for all members and for committee members, and we'll be writing round about that when it's gets firmed up a little bit more. Okay, so we note the forward plan, and we note that the next meeting is on Monday the 27th of October. So I thank everybody for a good session, and close the meeting.